Welcome back to part 3 of our interview with Joe Williams, where he tells us why adding a zero to what you charge can change the way you do business permanently. In addition to Joe's 3 tips for public speaking. Keep it right here. Part 3 is just around the corner.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. I have had the pleasure of hearing you talk on this topic, and I'm going to ask you to tell the audience. I've spoken about it on other podcasts, but it is such a powerful concept. I want you to tell the story of how you heard about it, and that is add a zero. And it still freaks me out. Every time I talk about it, it freaks me out. But I did my annual planning this year. I did it to my own business, and it is a game changer. So it's not my idea. You told me about it. Thank you, thank you. Tell the audience what it is.
Yeah, well, as we all do, I still search out and hire the absolute best of the best in any field that I want to excel within. And obviously my business and professional life is one that's a constant. And so I seek out mentors in that world who are doing things or creating businesses that are different than mine. As you know, a few years ago, it's been about 4 years ago now, almost 5, that I decided to not travel as much and not be 200 days a year on the road, speaking for my own events and other people's events, but start traveling a little bit less. I really had to do a major retool on my business. And so I'd hired a mentor, and there was a whole group of us sitting around one time when we had a get together, and 5 or 6 of us had become very close friends. And we were also kind of the ones who were pushing each other and pushing the edge. And we were having lunch, I remember one day, and one guy said, "Hey, who's up for starting an Add a Zero club?" And we said, "What is that?" And he said, all it is next time we're asked what we charge for our individual businesses, they were similar but different in what we did, add a zero to whatever it is. And so there was one guy who was relatively new to the whole group and was kind of very new to the whole coaching, consulting space. And he took it on. And the next time we got together, which was about 3 months later, he walked in and said, "Well, boys, I'm done." And we said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, I was coaching executives for $3,000 a month when we were together last time, and I decided the Add a Zero group. So I immediately went to $30,000 a month for the executives I was working with. And I pretty quickly got 3 or 4 of them. And I'm at $1 million a year in personal income. So I think I'm pretty much set to just take care of the people I've got. So that's it. And he quickly kind of faded away from the group around the area, building his business from there. He was just taking care of what he has, and he still does that to this day. And it's a fun game to play, especially if you can get some others involved. Not just do it yourself, but get some others involved where you can have fun with it as a group of people.
Well, what was great? I just got done my annual planning, so I spent 4 days, locked in a hotel room somewhere. And as I was going, it's still, every time I talk about it, it's like, oh my, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
But what's great is you start asking great questions of, okay, what do I need to provide? What do I need to give in order to earn this number? Yep. And that really starts a whole process of, well, I could do this. Maybe I could do this. And it really starts a very interesting thought process. And,
Well, I know for him, think about it. At $30,000 a month, or, give or take $360,000 a year, for someone as an executive to hire him. Obviously their level of personal income is different from what one might think, I should say, of the average, executive who's making several $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million a year. It automatically pole vaulted him into a group of people, by the way, who tend to run together.
Yes.
So what happened was one heard about him, and lo and behold, his friends started asking what was going on and what he was doing because they noticed a change, and he was able to refer the others that then referred the other one to here and there. It all came from referrals after really that first one because, as we've been talking about, they tend to congregate together.
My best business comes from referrals.
Yes, mine too.
No question.
Mine too, yeah.
And I made the mistake of, spending months and months shouting to the audience, shouting to the world, hey, this is what I do over here.
Yeah. Better off to take care of existing clients and then, let them know that you'd like to work with others that are just like them if they know anybody.
Absolutely.
That's exactly where it's truthful, where that's exactly who you like to work with. And it's amazing how those things will come together.
Absolutely. All right, now for the fun part. We're at the part where I want to talk about your speaking business. Speakers Bootcamp. I am a grad. I am now a certified professional speaker. And
yes,
if you're questioning how great of a coach and mentor Joe Williams is, simply go back to episode number 1 of this podcast, listen to it for a short period of time. It's only probably about 7 minutes. And then obviously you're listening to today's, and you tell me if I'm not a better speaker today.
That's the acid test, huh?
That's right. Every time I hear that episode, I kind of cringe. But I leave it there for a reason. I actually wanted to re-record it. I was like, oh, please.
Yeah.
But, we're coming up on 500 episodes being broadcast. And it just seems like yesterday. When you and I were working together, it seems just like yesterday when I started the podcast. And it's about doing things over and over again. And then through repetition, coupled with correct knowledge, Joe Williams is going to share some of that knowledge for us. That's how you develop your skill set. So just doing things over and over again does not develop it. Something done poorly or incorrectly over and over again, all that does is instill a poor habit or an incorrect habit. So tell us some of the great skills. I know what they are, but the audience, give us some takeaways that they're going to learn at Speakers Bootcamp and some of the things that they can implement if they choose not to go, that they can implement in their business and in life.
Yeah. So when I first started, I am not, as you know, I am not by any stretch of the imagination. I am not a natural born speaker or presenter. In fact, just
bullshit.
The opposite. Oh, no.
Come on.
Just the opposite. I had stage fright as badly as anyone I've ever worked with when I was starting out. I would be physically ill for days leading up to a presentation as well as right afterward. And I was a glutton for punishment. I just kept forcing myself to say yes to opportunities to present and speak. Now, I decided to take the normal route, which a lot of people may have done, which is go and take a traditional training. There are a bunch of them out there, a bunch of really well-known organizations. What I found was that they were all, though, using the same system, and it's what I don't use today personally with myself or anybody I work with, and that is trying to have some ideal that they jam everybody into of what a good presenter looks like. Instead, what I prefer to do is take a look at each individual distinctly. I watch for and study very closely, first and foremost, as a grounds to build upon. What are your strengths? What do you naturally and uniquely do well that we should leverage and we should build upon? That becomes the basis of everything we do together. Now, that being said, there's a couple of things that, we can polish off. Rough edges, first and foremost. If you've got any things that you're doing that are distracting or they are causing breaks in connection between you and your audience or you and others, we'll polish those off a little bit. But really what I find is getting people into their strengths, or as I call it, your groove, your flow state as a communicator, a public communicator, will tend to evaporate a lot of the small mistakes that a lot of people make when they're trying to just be someone other than themselves or be a certain way that they learned, at some speaking training or presentation skills training that they went to. I throw that out the window and look at everybody uniquely. And luckily I've had the good fortune to do it with tens of thousands of people over the years. So I can kind of short circuit the amount of time that it takes to find a person's flow and groove and get them into that and replicate it pretty quickly. The other thing that I work with people on then is also there are certain little tricks of the trade that as professionals we pick up. Everything from preparation things to crowd control dynamics. Great speakers understand all kinds of quick little tricks about how to control the energy and the dynamics of the crowd. And so I can help people short circuit that and, accomplish literally years of what it would take doing it trial and error yourself, just with some little tricks that when a person learns them, they make total sense, and we can help condition into them so that's their go-to for the crowd dynamics and energy, how to use everything from the space available and all the different tools of impact from AV and sound and music and lights and video. And, how do those different skills contrast if you're doing video, as a lot of us are doing more and more of, and, online, webcast type presentations and all the things that come along with those. There's differences in skills that you have to adopt and adjust a bit versus over just a live presentation aspect. And so we just kind of short circuit all that and teach little tips for all those different environments.
And also for the boardroom.
Yes.
That's a presentation. It doesn't have to be on Absolutely. A stage. I've used the techniques, and I want to make a note here, because I just used the word techniques. I don't feel like I'm using techniques. I learned skills that I have to consistently work with, hone. I get better at them the more I do them. But it's about the skill set that when I get in front of just one person, I feel like I'm on stage. And one of the things that what really resonated with me was I do keynote. They're not speeches. They're not talks. I have keynote conversations.
Yes.
I have conversations with people.
Yes.
It's not about presenting. It's not I can't even say the word. That's good. Presenting. Yes. It's about having a conversation. And that's, I think, is really when the connection's made. And I think that's when you're most impactful.
Absolutely. And that was really kind of certainly my big aha as a young speaker, or, in the early days of giving quote unquote presentations. I was taking courses and trying to learn from trainings that were teaching presentation skills. Now, let me be clear. I use some of these terms synonymously, just for sake of people understanding quickly, what it is I'm talking about doing. So I will use the term presentation skills and speaking and so forth. But at the end of the day, as you know, in having worked together, the big aha for me is when I realized, wait a minute, I'm actually having a conversation with the individuals that have given me the honor and privilege of their time and attention. And when I started viewing everything, it might be a room of 5 individuals, it might be 500 individuals, it might be 5,000. But what's still taking place is a conversation. While I may be the person at the front of the room with the big loud microphone and PA system, sound system, I'm kind of monopolizing the verbal aspect of the communication. But everybody in that audience is conversing as loudly back with me as they can, and that is through the use of their body language. As a great public communicator, one of the things you become very skilled at is reading the collective body language of, if you're good, that is, or you just stand up there and you just blast out what you had pre-prepared and practiced and rehearsed. That's what a lot of those different courses taught me. As you know, I use a very, very different methodology when I prepare and then work with people, my clients and so forth. But it's a conversation. It's two humans having, in fact, a few years ago, I've been working on it now for a while, a book called Public Conversations, because I really believe that's what it is. That's what our job is, to be impactful, effective, inspirational, influential communicators. That's our job.
And if you give us 2 tips.
Yeah.
I know you got a whole slew of tools here, but give us 2 tips that we can walk away with today and implement.
Sure. So number 1, stage fright. because people come to me quite often, and stage fright is a major issue for them. First and foremost thing to understand about stage fright is, for most people, it's something that happens somewhat unconsciously until it spirals out of control. Then it becomes conscious, because they tend to they tend to close off their breathing and tighten different muscle groups in their body, sometimes unconsciously. So they can have a tension in their shoulders and so forth, which in turn shuts down their breathing. And so their body goes into a fight or flight response. That's a lot of what people experience when they experience their heart racing and sweating and their mouth getting dry and things like that. That is the adrenaline, the cortisol, everything within our bodies being released, the biochemicals of fight or flight. And so one of the quick ways that we can get around all that is a couple of things. Number one, breathing, deep breathing before we ever speak, and then getting in the habit of forcing yourself to breathe when you start speaking. Another thing, though, that I learned years ago from a good friend of mine, just on a very offhanded basis, is what he called Linus's blanket. Another great tool for overcoming stage fright. In other words, understand, as you recall from Charlie Brown, Linus had a blanket. And as long as he had that blanket with him, he was fine. He didn't really use it for very much, but it's just kind of his safety net. But if he ever lost his blanket, he would freak out. And a lot of people do that when they go up to give presentations or to speak. They don't have quick access to something to use as a place that if everything goes to heck in a handbasket, they can go back to and pick up their place and work from. Different people gravitate to different things. One of the things personally that I use, a lot of people I work with uses, we'll put the big ideas that we need to get across down on even a note card and keep it in a pocket, jacket pocket or back pocket or something like that, where if we had to, we could pull that out and put it on a podium or even glance at it when the time is appropriate. But we know we've got it, so we rarely ever need it. That's another quick little tip that, if really used consciously and intelligently, you'll find is a big factor in your presentations. Really understanding clearly, though, when you finish, taking time out to seclude yourself somewhere with one or two trusted people to write down all of the things you did well that you want to replicate for the future, and then what are some ideas for improvement, just as I mentioned before, and taking time to have that what we call post-performance ritual or debrief process. As you mentioned, I learned years ago, I learned it from Tony, and I still use it with myself and all my clients.
So important. After every presentation, after every pitch, there should be a debrief. After my first live event, I remember coming off stage after 6-7 hours, and got with my team that evening. I said, "So, how'd it go?" I said, "I felt really good. Really energized." And I remember someone looked at me and said, it was good." I was like, "No. I mean, it was really good, right?" Like, I said, "I felt like I gave it all." They're like, "Well, you need to give a little bit more." Yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah. And the thing is vital, and I've said it, but it's really important, is to force yourself to think about, what do I want to replicate? Okay, what did I do well first? Because we will have the human tendency to go to every mistake that we made or everything we'd like to do differently. And I think it is important to take some time beforehand to really decide, what do I want to build upon?
Well, Joe, thank you very much for being on. We could go for hours and hours, but we've gone longer than I
was going to say we have.
we really have. We've gone. We almost got stuck on the first. What were we first talking about?
Momentum. Right time, right place.
Yeah, exactly. Right time, right place. We could have spent an entire episode on that. But thank you very much. Now, what we are going to do this time that we did not do last time, we actually are going to have a section 3 or episode 3, and the audience will actually know how to get in touch with you. So tell us how we get in touch with you.
Yeah, best way to get in touch with me is just go to my website, joewilliamsonline.com, and joewilliamsonline.com, all one word. And you can find out more about what we do there, or just send me a quick email, and we'll open up a conversation, and we'll see if I can help you in some way.
Joe, thank you very much for being on today. I really, really appreciate it. And congratulations on being the first two-time interviewee. Or two-time conversational.
I don't know
Conversationalist?
what that says. I don't know what that says about how much I talk, but I guess the speaking coach who talks a lot is a thing that goes hand in hand. So,
Well, you were a top 5. Thank God we figured out that we were missing episode number 3. So
yeah,
welcome back. And as always, a great job. Thank you.
absolutely, it's a pleasure, and everybody out there, thanks for supporting Thor. He's a good friend and a trusted ally, and let's keep rocking in the future, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin. Click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.